All right, buddy. We have nothing short of just lunacy here now, and so I hate to be I really do feel like I'm the canary in the coal mine with all my whitey friends here,
No.
and as things start to come together, they're just like baffled, going, "God, I think you're right," and I go, "Yes, I know I'm right. That's what I'm talking."
I've been preaching the same damn
So
gospel for almost 10 years now. Is that what you told him?
yesterday, do
Okay,
what?
sorry, you're back. You went
Okay,
off for a
yeah,
second because I think
my alarm was going off. It looked like, so hopefully it doesn't happen again. So our governor is a guy named Kevin Stitt, and he kind of looks like Gomer Pyle from this TV show back in the 60s. And it sounds like, it sounds like him too. But he has higher aspirations. I think he thought that he was going to be in the DeSantis administration, went all in on that stuff. But Christian nationalists, the same deal. So now he wants to put a deal in for high schools in Oklahoma, because all of this sounds real good. When I'm going to say this, it's going to sound like a good sales job, and then we'll talk about the reality. So when you're in high school here, by senior year, when you have to either graduate or drop out, or whatever ends up happening. In order to graduate now, you either have to get into a college, and if you can't get into a college, career tech, teaching you how to do a job.
yeah.
One or the other. I mean, I can't argue with any of that. But if you can't get into either one of those, you have to join the military.
So that is where you're getting your recruitment from, Sean.
Right. So in a world where the military uses drones, computers, all this other stuff, do you really want the lowest level kids coming in?
See, here is what I'll counter you with. Maybe they're spending so much time on Xbox and video game consoles, it's probably easy for them to fly a drone.
Maybe they could do it. You might be right. That's what's scary. You might be right. But so here's what the reality is. So we have been defunding our public schools for 20 years here in Oklahoma. And America, back when it was more or less great, for whatever that term means, had fully funded public schools. Fully funded. I mean, really and truly fully funded. Unless if you were black, no, they weren't. But for everybody else, they were, and they were funded by local sales tax, and that's how they kept the black schools poor and the more affluent schools wealthier.
Okay.
So local, local control. And so now they've defunded them for 20 years, and now we're on this push to give that money to private schools, which they'll get a bunch more this year. They got 150 million last year, which doesn't sound like a lot. It is. Once you start stripping stuff like that away, it really does matter. And so now we're going to move the poorer kids will be stuck in public school, and the parents with families that know how to do their taxes, all this other stuff, just move on and get it all for free, which there's an argument to be made there that they're paying twice. I mean, there really is. There's an argument to be made there. So now we're going to have, like, the poor kids are going to have to go to Votech or there, because even if they got into college, how are you going to pay for it?
Yeah. See, they do have that theory, right, about millennials, that they were promised, like, you go to college, you get this degree, and you go get a job, and you'll be able to buy a house. But that never kind of worked out. Like, the millennials are still paying off their student loans and all of that, and none of them would probably be able to afford a house.
So the reality for everybody, since I'm from a different generation than you, when I went to college, for one, it was only $1,200 a year, including books. $1,200. Right. I could make that. I could make that in a month with a part-time job, honestly. And then if you took out loans, you could take out loans, but it was still like $2,500 total for a year.
Yeah.
And then as the push to get everybody to go to college, the millennials, they just kept raising the tuition. And like the college I went to was similar to UCO. They didn't really have a big sports program or anything. And magically, when all those kids started going, they got a D1 basketball team. They redid the track. And everybody just needed an education that you could make more money. So the theory back then was you would make $1 million to $1.5 million more dollars with a college degree than a high school diploma. And I don't believe that really is the case anymore.
I don't think it stands true at all.
No. And so it hasn't stood the test of time. So they were sold a bill of goods, but the bill of goods worked for me. And so people my age are making the laws, and they were making them 10 years ago. So in that generation's world, it worked.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't young people vote?
Good question.
At the end of the day, every single election, the young people are going to come. No, they don't. They never show up. And they get hosed, and they get hosed, and they get hosed. You know who gets stuff? 80-year-olds and 70-year-olds and 60-year-olds, because they voted in every damn election.
Yeah, they're like the main block that any politician has to cater to. Like they needs. Mm-hmm.
So, and people go, well, you do this for the young people. And you go, I can't. I got to get elected or nothing happens.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, literally. So I'll give you, so that's Kevin Stitt's deal. And then we have Gettner Drummond, who's a guy that's our attorney general that's going to run for governor. Yeah. And in one week, after sounding pretty moderate for the last couple of years, he took a case from our local district attorney that was against a police officer, and literally dropped the case. He took it and dropped it. And then yesterday he wrote this opinion on the jail that, I've been working against for years with the jail trust and all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. And he said the county has the right to put the jail wherever they want because it's needed. And you go, is it really needed? Because we already have one. But here's the ambiguity of the whole thing. He starts it off with this deal that says the jail gives the Constitution. The jail must be run by the sheriff. Mm-hmm. So which jail? Because this jail isn't run by the sheriff. Is the new jail run by the sheriff? I mean, did he throw us a bone while burning us at the same time? I mean, he's not burning me. None of this stuff really affects my actual life, to be honest. I just enjoy the fight.
Spoken like a true Irishman who's quit drinking.
Right, exactly. Right. What else is there to do? I can't sit in a pub and argue all night. A friend of mine was like, but I love your passion on it. And she goes, I just can't believe you can let go of that stuff. And I go, look, if I lose, I lose. Let's move on. I mean, there's no reason to sit there and get all upset. But there was a bone thrown in there, which we all caught a few hours later after we reread the thing the third time and went, wow. So that just voids everything else if they don't put the sheriff in charge.
So technically, does that mean that the jail trust is actually some sort of illegal, unconstitutional entity that's sitting on top of the sheriff's actual role?
Everybody has argued this from day one. And here's how small the world is. So Kevin Calvey's the guy, this old weirdo politician that looked like a Scottish sea captain. I mean, literally, or Sasquatch, one or the other, whichever way you want to go.
Just so the viewers know, he did find a dead body in a suspect location in Oklahoma and drove home without calling the cops. So there's that.
While he was running for Congress, a common hookup site for down low men. Oh, yeah. So Kevin Calvey employed Harold Hamm's daughter, who is also Sue Arnold's daughter, who is the richest woman in Oklahoma and the richest man in Oklahoma.
No.
And then she was part of this weird criminal justice authority council put together. Right. And then her mom ends up in charge of it, more or less, and on the jail trust, more or less. And the Gaylord family. So the two wealthiest families in Oklahoma end up being in charge of all this, but they don't know how to run it.
Yeah.
I mean, they just don't. It's nothing personal against Harold Hamm or Sue Arnold or the Gaylord family. Running a hotel and running a jail sounds similar, but it's not. And so all of these intertwined angles are all coming together at the same time. And it's convoluted and ugly. And I'm just going to sit back today and see what happens. So, but I have to address the fact that the way the attorney general wrote it sounds like it's not legal unless the sheriff is running it.
Yeah.
I'm good. I just don't want these people. Look, for those of you who don't know, we were the worst jail in America while the jail trust was running the jail. And you legally, every county has to have a jail. That's part of the Constitution. So you have to have one, but run by imbeciles is not necessary. So have I gone too far into Oklahoma politics today for the last day of the year?
Maybe people will start learning some shit, okay?
I'm not sold. I keep thinking that. And, I thought the Taylor Swift effect was going to push Kamala Harris into the White House. And no, they just like to go to concerts. They don't like to go vote.
Way to go after the Swifties of all people, Sean.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Because that was the thing Donald Trump was afraid of, were the Swifties.
Yeah, but think about it, right? If you compare like the balance sheet of her concert sales to see if all of those fucking people voted, probably they didn't.
No, they didn't. No. The people that talk the most online seem to be the people that vote the least.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not convincing anybody online. I hate to break it to anybody. In Twitter, where all the mean people meet, you're not convincing anybody on Twitter. You're just arguing with maybe a person. You may be arguing with a computer. Who knows?
No, yeah.
Voice prompts are pretty good these days.
The hilarious part about this is at times when I reply to Alex, Alex is like, see, there are times where I can't tell whether it's a bot or whether it's actually you. And I'm like, dude, I don't sound so formal.
Okay, that's good. Well, what do we do now that President Musk is having some issues with his vice president, Vivek Ramaswamy, and then the guy the CEO?
Oh, God, this is like the worst, like the group of idiots.
So here's why Ramaswamy didn't win, because I think he's going to be the first Indian president of America, and I no longer think that.
Mm-hmm.
He literally doesn't know when to shut up. And Musk looks like he drinks a lot, really doesn't know when to shut up. And you go, we all know, anyone with an education knows that is it H1 visas?
H1B visa.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Is a money maker for Americans. And instead of presenting it that way, where, hey, these guys come in, make 150 to 300 a year, we get half of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the money is. If you all don't want to pay more in taxes, we can get it from these folks by letting them in.
Do you know, one of our friends actually asked me the other day about, it was a Breitbart article that he sent me about how we don't need the H1B anymore. And it was like this little girl holding a sign that said, my parents can't commute to India or something dumb like that. And I was like, dude, y'all stopped investing in education 20 years ago. This workforce that fills the H1B visa does not exist and is not freely available. So I don't even know what you're arguing about.
So it's the dream that it exists. We're just not using that.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody with a son that sits in the basement of their house that's 27 to 35 years old, still playing video games all day, they believe their son got screwed out of a job. And that's why the son's a loser, rather than the parents gave him fucking trophies when he didn't win anything. And I hate to be that liberal guy saying that, but I got a trophy when I was in like 6th grade for 2nd place. My dad was like, why on earth would they give you a trophy for 2nd place? You didn't win. I was like, I don't know. They gave it to me. And he goes, I wouldn't even have brought that home.
I like parents like that. That's how they.
There's an immigrant parent for you, right? And he meant it. He was appalled that we got anything. Yeah. And the other team was better. I mean, they won. I was okay with it. I was like, shit, they played better. I was a bench warmer anyway. I was a young kid on the team. But we do not understand how profitable Silicon Valley is for America. We also don't understand how profitable Los Angeles is in the film. Because it's California. They're a bunch of liberal, homosexual, and all this other stuff. We don't want them. And you go, Oklahoma is a welfare state. We pay in less money to the federal government than we get out. And you can notice by this $40 million they've trying to use for this jail, they don't want to give it to poor people. They just want to use it for their own pet projects. It is crazy. I'm sorry, my nose is itching. But that's where our government is here. I mean,
I do that joke, right, where it's about like how people in India like super proud about the number of Indian CEOs. Like, the part of that joke where it goes into economics is where I'm like, dude, when they put these guys in charge, that wealth stays in America. They're paying taxes in America. It's not like he gets in there and he's like, all right, guys, send all this Google money back to India. It doesn't happen.
And let me explain it to another degree. They buy multi-million-dollar homes. They buy the best cars available. Whether they're import or not, we're still doubling our money on that. All of these things, a lot of wealthier Americans grew up with. So they're not buying new ones. They're just getting the estate their parents had. We want new money because new money spends. Old money doesn't spend. It just goes into a bank account and a trust. People look, the voters who predominantly voted last election are not, they're the ones going into the military for Kevin Stitt.
Yeah, but if you look at like just Silicon Valley, think about the real estate, the restaurants, the entire businesses there that are supported just because these guys run around with disposable income. Whether they're on, say, there are companies that misuse that visa, which
of course,
every ad, anything.
There are people who misuse everything.
I know.
They're not special.
It's just human nature. You give us something, we'll see if we can fuck with it.
So the opposite of that is, let's say you're in charge of a state budget of $15 billion and you misuse that, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So look, at the end of it all, America is a business. And anybody that thinks this isn't a business isn't paying attention. And in that business, what do you do to get 3% more revenue? You've got to bring in new people to bring in money. We have always been a country that makes all of our money on the back of immigrants. We always have been. This isn't new. When our people came over, they got treated like shit until they were rich enough to treat other people like shit. And then those other people are now treating other people like shit. Hispanics have come here and started to make money, and guess what? They don't want anybody. They don't want any competition coming.
Oh yeah,
same thing the Irish did. You know, the new audience for MAGA is Black Americans. Like, these people are coming in to take your jobs, and they're like, when would you start worrying about me?
Oh shit, I did read an article the other day. It's one of our liberal media posts, but then it was something about how Latino voters and also African American voters kind of voted for Trump because of the correlation between what he was promising and that prosperity gospel bullshit. Like seed investment, or what do they call it? Not seed investment.
I understand what you're talking about. Look, there's
seed faith. That's what it is. Seed faith. You give the pastor some money and you get tenfold. That's the deal that he's selling.
Yes. Well, I mean, isn't that what the lottery is all about? Isn't that what horse racing is all about? I mean, we've got an entire economy based on that. Isn't that? I mean, the lottery is the world's best example. So they switched around the numbers and the way the numbers worked on the lottery so it would get bigger, so they get free press. So when the lottery gets over $500 million, everybody goes out and spends another $100 million.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people, so I don't even understand. I don't understand that. Like, I don't understand, but they're like, hey, it's $1. I got a shot. And you go, okay, I guess if it's only $1, $5, you know, I mean, I don't know. Somebody does win. So it does work. But that used to be illegal, and the Italians went to prison for running those same scams.
Can I tell you, like, it used to always fascinate me when I was at a gas station and there would be someone ahead of me who had like a bundle of cash and was just buying like different lottery tickets. Yeah. I was like, what is going on here? So
look, and I mean this, when I was 18 years old, I made a little under $20 an hour with full benefits. And a new car was only $4,000 back then. Yeah. So if you do the correlation, I could buy a house, I could buy a car comfortably with a meaningless labor job of working a jackhammer. It doesn't exist anymore. So maybe the only dream is that you get to do the lottery or something else. I mean, who knows? I got a friend of mine whose kid did a master's program and she was $50,000 in debt from the master's program for social work.
Oh, Jesus.
Right.
Don't you think that universities should make those kind of noble endeavors that they're teaching kids about free? Yeah.
It needs to be free. Right. So the one thing that I would say on this Kevin Stitt thing, so it sounds real good. So you either have to go to college, trade school, or the military. That's a weird one. And the military doesn't want a lot of people. And so Germany, when you get into 6th and 7th grade, starts to see what your talents are. and guide you, not make you, but guide you. And you go, hey, would you like to go learn more about this? In America, we're not allowed to say that the Germans do anything right, even though they have excellent engineering.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
they just do that. That's their thing. And we're not allowed to say the name of the country here. If you say that,
the fascinating part, Sean, like we figured out that part that I was looking for to do that import thing on.
Yeah.
We found a company in Germany that actually does it 10 times better than anywhere else in the world in Pforzheim. Wow. And I was like, all right, Tim. So we need to now go establish a company there. And I was like, all right, these guys probably are onto something. And this looks like a nice place to live in.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. It's a weird deal. And I don't know. I don't know how this goes in another 4 years. Look, a lot of these MAGA folks are going to die off. And, you know, once a strong man dies, the second person never really takes over. That's really not how it works. The economy collapses. You know, Venezuela, Argentina, you know, there's a few examples, Bolsonaro in Brazil. And there are examples to look at, but people fell for it. So we just got to get through the next 4 years. And you know, we have the microcosm. We're the test case here for a whole bunch of stuff. I haven't been beaten up on Ryan Walters lately because he put out all of these new guidelines for first, second, third, and fourth grade, and they're all Christian nationalist stuff. I mean, it's nuts. But in Texas, they've got districts that actually had to ban the Bible using a law that went through to get more Bibles into the school. It is just insanity. And you know, and I'm 61. I'm like, how long do I want to mess with all this? I mean, I don't even have kids in school. I mean, literally. And the parents aren't showing up. So.
Yeah. But think about it, John. Aren't the kids who are like in first and second grade now, wouldn't their parents be like from the millennial or the Gen X? The defunded.
Yeah.
I think these parents have too much to worry about because they're still carrying student loans and massive mortgage and a lease on the car and all of that. They don't have time to go fuck around in school meetings.
It really and truly. I don't know where this ends up. When you go to Oklahoma State School Board of the whole state, everyone there's 80, 70, or 60. And then there's a few people that are 40. Right. I mean,
they studied. Did women have the right to vote when some of these idiots were born?
Well, they want to bring back those good old days, don't they? What I would tell you is none of us, and I'm included in this, have been in school this millennium.
Exactly. Okay, I've been in this millennium, but
this millennium,
but John, think about it. School. Like I was thinking about it. It's almost like 20 or 25 years since I finished 10th grade. Right. And how the hell will I know what the hell they're teaching in school? Because the other day, when one of a really famous prime minister and finance minister, who kind of opened up India's economy to why we actually have all those IT companies here. Yeah. When he passed away, like a lot of there was this TikTok guy who was asking people like, who's this? And one person asked me if that was like an aged image of a cricketer. And I was like, no, dude. The reason why there is a middle class in these cities is because he actually worked toward liberalization of India. Before that, we didn't let foreign companies come here and work. He was the one who opened up the economy. John, after he opened up the economy was when we had our first KFC in India.
Oh, dear Lord. Well, you know, all the good things come first. So Mexico's president now is a female. And her goal is to make Mexican electric cars because, you know, the Chinese are there. They've got the engineering. They've got the American capability. We own tons of factories. I mean, they could easily nationalize them, which is what they did with their oil companies. The American oil companies there got nationalized. And most people here didn't pay attention enough to know that happened. But I think it's pretty fascinating that that's her goal. So my old high school roommate is the lawyer for Mexico's environmental policy. So he travels all over the world. I know. And I ended up owning a pub. I'm so proud of myself right now.
Isn't it fascinating when now you look like even I'm like 38. I look at some of my classmates and I wonder what they're doing. There is one guy who's like a councilman in the Netherlands. There's one guy who's basically the financial head for one of the sheikhs in Dubai.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, all right.
What I really needed to have done is been nicer to the guys from Kuwait.
Hmm.
They just needed somebody in America to watch their stuff. That's all they needed. Somebody they knew. You didn't even have to be the smartest guy in the room. But my roommate was from an incredibly well-off family in Mexico, so he was already on third base. All he had to do is walk home. But he's done a nice thing with his life because, really we moved a lot of our agriculture there, and they are using pesticides and herbicides that are illegal in America.
Hmm. Yeah.
And eventually that's going to be a problem. And so hopefully, maybe he makes some forward momentum. I don't know. He was a good, solid guy at, 15 is when we were roommates. And you could see that he was a decent human at 15. I was just a shit at 15. So it's neat to see where everybody ends up. So yeah. And I don't know. I don't know what people think of stuff I do other than going, hey, you're still arguing with people.
But I'll tell you the brilliant part. Sean, the guy who I met from UCO, who's like a financial head in Dubai, he was like, do you know that the Improv in Dubai rents that building is mine? You come and perform there anytime you want. How much do you make? Cool. I was like, all right.
Dang, well, we need to go do that. I don't think my humor would go over well in a predominantly Muslim country.
So there are so many American comics, including Bill Burr and shit, who have performed there.
No way. And survived. Well, okay. Mm-hmm. All right. I just always am like, I just don't want to get my head cut off anywhere. That's my goal. I think that's an attainable goal. Let me not get my head cut off anywhere.
I think that's the fascinating part about hanging out at comedy clubs is that those are still safe places for me to talk about all the shit I want to talk about because nobody's like waiting outside to beat my ass because I'm bitching about some leader here.
That is valid. I need to get back into that. Let me run over one thing before we go. So I'm driving into work yesterday about 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and it appears to be two guys kind of in my street. Not walking but jogging slowly, and one of them's in full camo with a backpack, but even the face gear on, and it's 45 or 50 degrees. It is not cold. Mm-hmm. And then another guy about 20 paces behind him in full camo gear with this thing on. And I'm like, I'm going to come back around with a weapon and see what the F is going on. So I come up 15 minutes later, I make the circle, and they are like exercising, running around a block. And so when I think of this white Christian nationalist thing and the militias, it may look like we might have a couple of them in the neighborhood. But what do women think when they're out jogging in the morning or walking their dogs? These idiots.
To be honest with you, there used to be a kid so international students have to stay on campus for the first 6 months because of how our visas are set up. So there was a kid who I knew, Jack something. He's probably in the army right now. So he used to be in full, like his military uniform doing those laps in the morning just because he was practicing for his ROTC before. Is that what it is? Yeah.
Well, so I don't think in college it's ROTC, but high school. College would be, he was probably doing some officer's candidate. I'm not a military guy, so I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's there are those gear. Guys, but then I think there are also the nutbags who are running around the neighborhood in like
this guy. I know what the real gear looks like, and I know the stuff you buy off of Amazon. And this was Amazon stuff.
I thought you were going to say Bass Pro.
Right. Well, Amazon, Bass, aren't they all the same at this point? Yeah. I don't. It's going to be interesting to see how all this plays out. I have a friend of mine that's a lesbian that's moving to Portugal, and she goes, "You really should probably get out of there sometime soon." To me,
you can live in another country peacefully for like.
I am totally, unlike most Americans, I'm bilingual. So, and that don't mean I like both sexes. That means I speak two languages.
I wonder how many people thought bilingual meant something else.
you know they do. All right, my man. I got to get out of here. I got so much stuff to do today before New Year's tonight. I hope you have a happy New Year.
You too. Wishing everybody